In this module, we shall take a look into what malwares are. A very commonly used term in today's scenario. Malware can be seen as a program which affects a computer system or any programmable device for that matter in a way that could compromise its security or force it to perform operations it is not originally intended for. The term, when it was conceived, was used to denote malicious software, but the diversity of such programs now renders such taxonomy useless. Some basic types of malware commonly seen nowadays are Trojan horses, backdoors, rootkits, viruses, worms, spyware, adware, and the like. Here, we shall take a look into the concept of Trojan horses. They are a specific class of malware which are used for intrusions into secure systems and networks. It is secretly installed when an infected executable runs on a computer. The purpose of such programs is to allow unscrupulous entry to a system. They do not replicate on their own and do not cause any direct damage, but the losses encountered are immense. Due to increasing focus on hardening operating platforms, attackers tend to attack via browser controls rather than sending infected files into the system. This method is less intrusive, thereby decreasing the risk of being detected, and gives modern Trojans a degree of independence. Shown here is an example of how a Trojan horse tries to intrude in a system. The example illustrates how a Trojan file tries to masquerade as a genuine authority with a valid certificate in order to fool the user into installing or allowing access to its system. ActiveX controls on websites are a common case of Trojan infections. ActiveX allows automatic installation of software from websites. The user probably does not know what they are running, and due to lack of sandboxing and misleading descriptions, not much information is given to the user. Such controls use digital signatures with impersonated signing. Now it is important for us to understand the purpose of using a Trojan horse. The major aim of employing a Trojan is to allow remote access to a system. While this may not sound threatening, the functions that can be performed are indeed dangerous. Some of the operations performed are spying on the system users, disrupting normal operations, to relay a malicious connection so as to disguise the attacker's location, like spam or hacking, to launch a distributed denial of service attack, to access resources utilized by the systems, for example bandwidth or files. Given here are some common examples of Trojan horse programs which were in widespread use some time ago. Some of the names include MS Rootkit, iSpyNow, and Assassin Trojan. These programs have different features as per their operations and different circumvention methods for several security measures. Trojan horses are a generic concept in the current security scenario, with the line of distinction between different malware classes blurring rapidly. The diagram of this slide illustrates the mechanism behind Trojan attacks through an ICQ instant messaging server. The entities in question here are an attacker, a victim, and an ICQ server. The attacker sends a Trojan file via the ICQ server to the victim, which in turn relays the relevant information back to the attacker. The information here would be the victim's IP address and an open port. Armed with this information, the attacker gets remote access to the victim's machine by connecting to the port and establishing a session. Now the classification of Trojans is basically on the type of activity that is performed in the system. Some of the basic types of Trojans are backdoors, exploits, and rootkits. Let us go through these terms in brief now. Backdoor-based Trojans allows access to a system through methods that the user is unaware of. It allows us to access the files and data via daemon processes running in the system. Exploit-based Trojans deal with targeted program code which deals with vulnerabilities in the programs running in the device, triggering certain changes and gaining access via the exploit code. Rootkits are mainly used to hide unscrupulous activities from being detected by security measures employed in the system, or to maintain further access to the system by escalating the privileges gained by the malicious programs. Emphasizing on the aspect of security, detection of Trojans is an important area of interest among security professionals. Unfortunately, with obfuscating mechanisms on the rise and changing methods of circumvention of security measures, detecting of Trojan-based malware is not an easy task. Nevertheless, there are some aspects that may narrow down the detection process, such as suspicious port detection, suspicious process scanning, process monitoring tools, examining the registry entries, Windows Startup registry entries, startup programs monitoring tools, suspicious files and folders detection, reliability check of files and folders, and network activity detection. Now we shall look into the concept of backdoors. As the name suggests, a backdoor is a program which gives an unauthorized access method to attackers, bypassing the regular authentication methods of the system. This concept is generic and can be applied to software development and crypto systems as well. The idea behind this concept is to allow bypassing normal authentication or access mechanisms by employing a sort of master key in the process. The backdoor should be known only to the person who developed it. The attacker using the backdoor connects to the remote system without the knowledge of the user and establishes a session wherein several other techniques are employed to procure relevant information. The components involved in a backdoor program are a client and a server program. The server program is sent to the victim machine through various methods such as infected files, email attachments, etc. Once the server runs on the victim device, it opens a network port or connection from where the attacker can do the following: transferring files, browsing through storage partitions in the system, getting information on system hardware and software, taking screenshots and accessing the webcam, executing remote commands on the victim system, and menial operations such as triggering the computer into an infinite loop, toggling the CD-ROM. A household term in security, viruses are malicious programs which perform abnormal activity in a computer system. The main function of a virus to self-replicate and attach itself to files matching the logic functions included in the malicious program. Rather similar to a biological virus, it operates by attaching itself to files and spreading the infection via logical patterns as written by the malware developer. Nowadays, malware developers have evolved their logic mapping skills and everyday complex patterns are churned to evade the ever-increasing plethora of security solutions available in the market. Now, a discussion on the classification of viruses is imminent. Viruses are classified according to the target of infection and their respective behavior. Some of the common groups are boot sector viruses, program viruses, multipartite viruses, stealth viruses, polymorphic viruses, and macroviruses. Boot sector viruses infect the boot or MBR of diskettes and hard drives through the sharing of infected disks and pirated software applications. Once your hard drive is infected, all diskettes that you use in your computer will be infected. Program viruses become active when the program files, usually with extensions like .bin, .com, .exe, .ovl, and .drv, carrying the virus is opened. It then makes copies of itself and will infect other programs on the computer. Multipartite viruses are hybrids of boot sector and program viruses. It infects program files, and when the infected program is active, it will affect the boot record. Stealth viruses disguise themselves to prevent from being detected by antivirus software. It alters its file size or conceals itself in memory. A polymorphic virus acts like a chameleon, changing its virus signature, that is binary pattern, every time it multiples and infects a new file. A new type of virus, such as macrovirus, programmed as a macro embedded in a document, usually found in Microsoft Word and Excel. Once it gets into a computer, every document you produce will become infected. It is relatively new and may slip by your antivirus software if you don't have the most recent version installed. The diagram shown here gives the gist of how a general purpose virus works. For the sake of clarity, I'll explain the process in several steps. The first step is the dropping of the virus on the user system via email attachments. The next step is the triggering of the execution code, which happens when the user runs or opens the malicious file. The virus starts to attach itself to files in different locations in the computer. The next step is the spreading of the infection to other computers. The final step would be the execution of the payload, which defines what the virus intended to do in the first place. Now we shall look into another infamous class of malware known as worms. Similar to a virus, worms are self-replicating malicious programs that propagate through the internet by breaking into machines and spreading itself over to all machines present in the network. The purpose of a worm is to crash network services and affect devices that work on network level. It does not rely on user intervention and spreads automatically. It also does not rely on being transmitted physically and spreads over a network with certain replication patterns. This figure illustrates how a worm actually spreads through a network. In this particular example, the worm attaches itself to files present in the shared folder and sends print commands to the network printer to consume network resources. This slide lists the basic components of a worm, such as reconnaissance, specific attacks, a command interface, communication mechanisms, intelligence capabilities, and some idle capabilities or non-attack capabilities. Apart from virus and worms, spyware has come to the fore in the current security scenario. Due to its widespread use to steal information, spyware is deceptive software which promises users a feature or utility in return for secretly tracking your web surfing habits for advertising purposes. Spyware can get in a computer as a software virus or as the result of installing a new program. As seen in attack scenarios now, the focus has shifted from standalone software programs to browser plugins, which could fetch the browser history, cookies, and saved credentials and send it back to the attacker over the internet. Now it is important to recognize the symptoms involved in a spyware attack in order to mitigate it as quickly as possible. Some of the noticeable symptoms for a spyware program installed in a system are extra system tray icon present, which can give an indication of background processes running, which could be a potential spyware, browser home pages being redirected to suspicious websites, unwanted pop-up during system operations, slow and deprecated computer performance. This example demonstrates the various concepts of a spyware program. The components shown here are a keylogger program, webcam logger, screen logger, clipboard logger, and a SSL logger. The keylogger is responsible for capturing and sending the keystrokes typed. The webcam logger is capable of taking snaps from a webcam over a remote connection, whereas a screen logger takes screenshots of the currently active screen. A clipboard logger gives information about the currently held contents of the clipboard, while SSL logger captures SSL encrypted traffic from the victim computer. Now it is important to understand the various countermeasures which would be required to reduce the impact of malware-based threats, and these are listed as such: endpoint security using host-based antivirus and firewall, real-time monitoring of the network, proper configuration of application level firewalls, passive monitoring of the network, auditing of network level services, instigating proper security policies to restrict outside device interference in the network. Well, that is all for this module on malware. Following will be a demonstration to illustrate this concept.
Let's start with the installation of a keylogger. I'm using the keylogger Ardamax. Let's see. Extract. Double click. Extract the file. Now you have to put the password. Now install the keylogger in the machine. You have to select the keylogger engine, log viewer, and documentation if you want. Then you can select the path, and you can select a path so that the victim will not able to identify actually the real path of the keylogger. You can select any path. Right now I'm taking the normal path of the C program. Now run the keylogger. You can see the keylogger will be run in my in my bar, in the normal startup bar. To view it, just right click and you can check the view logs. Right now only a single activity. Now thing is that we have to register it, because if we will not register it, then it will not give us the complete logs details. So here is the Erdemax key. I have to put the keys. So right click here and enter the registration key. And you have to put the name. You can put any name. You can see the registration code is accepted. Thank you for the registration. Means your keylogger is ready to use. So this is the installation of the keylogger. After being installation of a keylogger in a machine, you want to see the logs and the keystrokes which the victim has been stroked in your computer. So let's check how to check the keylogs and how the log activity will be monitored by the keylogger. Let's check. Right now the victim machine, this is the victim machine which has the keylogger installed in this. This is typing something. Hello Inobus. Okay, and then cancel it. Something as, let's check the email address. I'm using the internet. Because keylogger will also monitor the internet activity, whatever the browser you are accessing, even the email address and the password, it can monitor everything. Let's check. Enter the email address. And put the password. And sign in. You can see the activities of the internet. You can also open some other website. And you can also enter the email address and password here. And put the enter. You can see the email address and password entered by the victims. Let's check the logs of the keylogger. Go to the view log, right click. Let's check the log activity. If you click here to the IE Explorer, as you click it, you can see the logs. See, I have put the email address inobuzz@gmail.com and the password is ino123. Even when I'm using this Gmail, I'm using the email address inobuzz@gmail.com and the password inobuzz123. So you can see the log activity. Okay, which is the keylogger capture when the victim is typing in the machine. Even you can see in the notepad I have writing hello Inobuzz. Even I have not saved it. still the keylogger will capture the keystroke. Okay, here's the tab. You can find the web logs, you can find the keystroke logs. Okay, you can view the things, which type of log you want to display. If you want to check only the web log, then you click here. You can filter the web logs. If you want to see the keystrokes, you can see it from here. Okay, so this is the demonstration of the keylogger. Keylogger is one of the dangerous things to get the email address. If you want to hack somebody email address, then you have to install the keylogger in your machine. Once you are able to install it, then you can find out the keystroke, whatever the email address and whatever the information they are typing in the browser. You can find out everything. You can also use this keylogger in a hidden mode. Right click it and put the hidden mode. As you click it, let's check. Control Alt Shift and H. Okay, this is the keystroke. If you use these key, then you can find it. Right now I'm using the keylogger in a hidden mode. Now nobody will be identified that actually this keylogger is running my machine. Right now it is in the hidden mode. If you want to access it, you have to press the key again, and you can see, you can find out the keylogger. Now you can see it. Okay, this is the demonstration of the keylogger.
In this video, we shall be seeing the demonstration of a Trojan known as Nuclear. So first of all, we have to click on the client folder. Go to the client, double click it, and here you can see the client panel. Now what you have to do is you have to create the server over here. So click on server. You can enter the IP via the URL or the actual IP address of your machine. In here, if you are creating a reverse Trojan, you have to enter the IP address of the machine which will be receiving the connection, which you can find using this command. Once you find out the IP address, check the port number of the machine. You can enter in any default port number over here. Go to the next panel and see the different options. In the message box, you can type here the title as well as the message, and here you can see the test message as how it will be displayed in the victim computer. So just build the machine, something known as .exe. So here we can see that we have created a imp.exe Trojan file. So in this particular demonstration, we will be sending it to the victim machine, which in this case is a XP, Service Pack 2 professional machine. Double click on that machine. You can see here the message is displayed and the connection is established. So from the panel, double click on that, and here you are connected to the victim machine. So you can utilize the various features of a Nuclear right over here. First thing here would be to take a screenshot of the victim machine, and we can see that we got the actual screenshot of the machine from where the Trojan was dropped. Apart from that, you can install a remote keylogger on that machine, by virtue of which you can find out whatever data was entered via the keyboard. Now let's say suppose if the user typed in this particular string in a notepad file. Opening of the panel, here you can see that you got the exact keystrokes of the victim machine, as well as the time and the software. Apart from that, you have various other features, among which is the process manager. Just right click on it click on refresh, and you will be able to see a list of all the processes which have been given here. So in this, I will kill this particular notepad.exe process, which will close down the notepad folder or the notepad file which is being created over there. Apart from that, you can execute some remote commands on the victim machine. For example, this particular command will open up a command terminal in the victim machine. You can also access the remote shell from this particular panel. So if you start the remote shell, just type in any command you want, such as ipconfig, and then press enter. So it will execute this command on the remote system and it will show you the result on this remote shell. So apart from that, this particular keylogger has many uses.